I love that you get cold when it's 71 degrees out. I love that it takes you an hour and a half to order a sandwich. I love that you get a little crinkle above your nose when you're looking at me like I'm nuts.
Picture a diner in New York City, a packed lunchtime crowd, and at a corner booth, a woman in a white blazer closes her eyes, throws her head back, and delivers a performance so committed, so hilarious, and so unexpectedly human that a stranger across the room says the 4 words that would follow her forever.
I'll have what she's having.
That was Meg Ryan in 1989. And for the next decade, all of America wanted exactly what she was having. The warmth, the laugh, the curl of blonde hair, the feeling that the world could still be charmed back into love. She was the queen of the romantic comedy, one of Hollywood's highest paid actresses. She could fly a military helicopter in a Gulf War film and make you believe every second of it. And then, in the space of one headline-soaked year, the same industry that made her a star decided she was someone else entirely. So what really happened to Meg Ryan? Early life. Born Margaret Mary Emily Hyra, November 19th, 1961, in Fairfield. An ordinary suburban household until her parents divorced when she was 15, and her mother walked out to chase her own old acting dreams, leaving Meg and her 3 siblings behind. That wound stayed with her for years. She went to New York University to study journalism, no plan to act, and took commercial work just to pay tuition. Something clicked. She registered with the Screen Actors Guild under her grandmother's maiden name. Margaret Hyra disappeared. Meg Ryan arrived. By her final year, she had so much acting work, she dropped out and moved to California. First break. Her first film role came in 1981. George's Rich and Famous, playing Candace's teenage daughter, a blink and miss it beginning. Then the soap years. From 1982 to 1984, she played Betsy Stewart on As the World Turns. As she'd later tell Conan O'Brien with a laugh, her character was the good girl of the town. Even then, the archetype was finding her. But 1986 changed everything. Top Gun was a phenomenon. $177 million domestic, a film that defined an era. Meg Ryan played Carol Bradshaw, the warm-hearted wife of Goose. It was a supporting role, and she made it count. When Goose dies mid-film, it's her face that breaks the audience open. On that set, she also met her Inner Space co-star the following year, a charming, talented actor named Dennis, who was quietly struggling with addiction. She helped him through it. They married on Valentine's Day, 1991. That's a story for later.
Hi. Got a problem with doors?
Waste of time.
The sliding doors moment. Before the peak, there's one decision that deserves its own spotlight. In 1989, Meg Ryan was already cast in Steel Magnolias, the ensemble drama with Sally Field, Shirley MacLaine, Dolly Parton, and Olympia Dukakis. She was set to play Shelby, a plum role, a serious dramatic showcase. Then a script landed on her desk, written by a journalist turned screenwriter named Nora, about a man and a woman who drive from Chicago to New York and spend the next 12 years figuring out what they actually are to each other. Meg walked away from Steel Magnolias. The role went to a largely unknown actress named Julia Roberts, who earned an Oscar nomination and a Golden Globe win for it and launched into the stratosphere. Meg Ryan's career launched too, just in a completely different direction. Years later, she told the Sunday Times, "I don't know if it's good form to talk about this, but I'm so happy that things turned out as they did. 2 careers, 1 fork in the road, and what she walked toward changed everything." Peak and proof of value. When Harry Met Sally, Rob directing, Nora writing, opened in 1989 to critical rapture and became a genuine cultural event. A Golden Globe nomination, her first leading role. She was 27 and she became a star overnight. The deli scene is the one everyone quotes, but the real ending is Harry's New Year's Eve speech, the "I love that you get cold when it's 71 degrees out" monologue. Still one of the most quoted romantic confessions in movie history. Then came The Range Nobody Expected, Joe versus the Volcano in 1990, 3 different characters opposite Tom Hanks in one film. Then in 1991, Oliver Stone's The Doors, Ryan playing Pamela Courson, Jim Morrison's tragic, drug-addled longtime companion opposite Val Kilmer. It was her first real attempt to crack the wholesome image, years before anyone thought she needed to. In 1994, When a Man Loves a Woman, an unsentimental, unglamorous performance as an alcoholic mother in crisis. In 1997, she voiced the lead in Anastasia, introducing her charm to a whole new generation. And in 1996, she went to War, Courage Under Fire, directed by Edward, starring Denzel Washington, the first major American film to confront the Gulf War. Meg Ryan played Captain Karen Walden, a helicopter pilot at the center of a Medal of Honor investigation, existing almost entirely in flashback. Fierce, credible, unrecognizable from the woman in the deli. The film grossed over $100 million, with a very young Matt Damon in one of his earliest roles. For anyone paying close attention, it was proof Hollywood was sitting on more than it knew what to do with. Then the trilogy. Sleepless. In Seattle in 1993, another Golden Globe nomination, another Efron film. Hanks, a grieving widower in Seattle. Ryan, a journalist in Baltimore who hears his voice on a late-night radio call-in and can't shake it. They spend almost the entire movie apart. When they finally meet atop the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day, no words are spoken. None are needed. $220 million worldwide. City of Angels in 1998, opposite Nicolas Cage, a heart surgeon falling for an angel who gives up eternity for her. Over $200 million worldwide.
Dad! What do you think you're doing? I want you to What do you mean? What do you think I'm doing? Get in this car! I'm trying to get out!
Sandwiched in between French Kiss in 1995, Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline in Paris, directed by Lawrence Kasdan. A jilted fiancé and a charming thief smuggled diamonds and a famously committed comic bit involving a wheel of contraband cheese. Critics were mixed, but audiences weren't. $102 million worldwide, peak era, Meg Ryan at her most purely cute calm. And then, You've Got Mail, December 1998, her third film with Hanks, this time with Nora directing. Kathleen Kelly's Small Bookstore, Joe Fox's Corporate Chain, anonymous AOL email, and Don't Cry Shop Girl, the dial-up modem, the chime. It captured a specific fleeting American moment. The early optimism of the internet when anonymous connection still felt like possibility, not danger. $250 million worldwide. Nora, highest grossing film ever. Julia Roberts, by her own admission, had passed on the role. 2 careers crossing again. At her peak, Meg Ryan earned $15 million a film, one of the most bankable stars in the world, with a following that crossed every demographic line. Women saw themselves in her. Men found her irresistible because she never seemed to be performing for them. When Meg met Nora, here's what most people don't fully appreciate about those years. The story is inseparable from Nora. Nora was one of American cinema's great observers of love, funny, sharp, unsentimentally wise. She first wrote for Meg in When Harry Met Sally, a script she partly based on her own life. They became close on that set. When Nora moved into directing, she called Meg first. For 10 years, the Efron-Ryan partnership was to the romantic comedy what Scorsese and De Niro were to crime drama. A director and her perfect instrument, each bringing out something in the other neither could find alone. Nora wrote women who fought back. Meg played women who felt every blow and kept moving. Meg later recalled the best advice Nora ever gave her. She said, "Meg, it's more important what you say no to than what you say yes to." And she was right. Nora died in June 2012. When that friendship ended, something in the era ended with it. The archetype If you had to name Meg Ryan's screen persona in one phrase, it's this: the woman who wanted love without surrendering herself. She never played doormats, never victims. Her heroines were guarded, a little messy, too smart for their own romantic good. Sally Albright orders her dressing on the side. Annie Reed drives to Seattle on a hunch, terrified the whole time. Kathleen Kelly fights back, even as her heart's breaking. Karen Walden commands a helicopter in a combat zone and refuses to be dismissed. The camera loved her transparency. She couldn't hide what she felt, but never oversold it. When she laughed, you believed it. When her voice cracked, you felt it in your chest. She wasn't Grace Kelly or Audrey, composed, remote, untouchable. Her characters overthought everything, had coffee rings on the table, made the wrong call, and flinched at their own feelings. Women didn't want to be her audience. They were her story. The screen was a mirror. That connection was craft, and it was real. But here's where Hollywood made its quiet, fatal mistake. They decided Meg Ryan was Sally Albright. They saw the packaging, not the range. And when she tried to step outside it, as she had in Courage Under Fire, as she'd try again soon, the industry kept pulling her back toward the image it knew how to sell. The turning point. By 1999 and 2000, something was shifting, and not just on screen. Her marriage to Dennis Quaid had been under pressure for years. Dennis himself later admitted that as Meg's career soared past his, he struggled with it. He told the Today Show, "When we met, I was the big deal, and then my career went downhill. I actually did feel like I disappeared." Meg, for her part, revealed in 2008 that the marriage had darker currents she'd kept private. "Dennis was not faithful to me for a long time," she said in InStyle. "That was very painful. I found out more about that once I was divorced. But the story the world got was simpler and crueler." In 2000, while filming the thriller Proof of Life in Ecuador with Russell, tabloid photos surfaced. The headlines wrote themselves. America's sweetheart had broken up her marriage. Dennis filed for divorce. The film's director publicly blamed the on-set relationship for its box office failure. Ryan pushed back quietly with real dignity. Russell didn't break up the marriage. He was definitely there at the end, but it wasn't his fault. "I was a mess. I hurt him too," at the end. And years later, the line that cuts deepest, "My time as a Scarlet Woman," was really interesting. As painful as it was also incredibly liberating. I didn't have to care about what people thought, but the image had already cracked, and Hollywood had no interest in putting it back together. The Hollywood mechanism. The common version of this story says Hollywood abandoned Meg Ryan because of a scandal. That's only one thread. What actually happened was the collision of four forces. The image trap. In the rom-com economy of the 90s, America's sweetheart wasn't a compliment, it was a contract. The machine needed her wholesome, warm, perpetually available for love. The moment tabloids recast her as messy and human, the machine had nothing left to run on. Studios don't love actors, they love formulas. Hers had just broken the double standard. Russell Crowe, equally central to the same story, won the Academy Award for Gladiator that same year. His career didn't just survive, it became the defining career of the early 2000s. Her box office collapsed. Same event, same two people, completely different consequences. Genre collapse. The glossy, big-budget rom-com was quietly dying as the new decade arrived. Studios were shifting money to franchises, action, prestige dramas. You've Got Mail turned out to be nearly the last of its kind. Her final commercial hit in the genre, Kate and Leopold, in 2001, with a young Hugh Jackman, landed at the very end of that window. By the time she needed a new platform, the platform was gone. The appearance tax. In the years that followed, every public appearance triggered the same cycle. Plastic surgery speculation, unrecognizable headlines, social media pylons. She's never confirmed any procedures, and she's been blunt about the noise. Meanness and hatred are just so stupid. Four forces, a wall where a door should have been. And then she took a film that should have been a triumph, and it became the final nail. In 2003, Jane Campion offered her the lead in the Cut, a dark, serious, erotic thriller. Meg Ryan took it, stripped away every trace of Sally Albright. Raw, vulnerable, fully present. The reaction was vicious, she later told the New York Times. I'd never presented myself like that before. It was so different from my assigned archetype. Then came the Parkinson interview in London, its own small disaster. The BBC host grilled her about appearing nude, had his fashion commentators critique her outfit on air, and when it curdled, she told him to wrap it up. He later called it one of his professional regrets. 7 minutes of television distilled the entire problem. The world had a fixed idea of who Meg Ryan was supposed to be. She'd stopped cooperating with it, and nobody, not the studios, not the press, not the audience, knew what to do with who was left. Wilderness years. Most people reach for the word tragedy here. It wasn't. She stepped back from film after 2004, a cameo on Curb Your Enthusiasm in 2009, guest spots on Web Therapy in the early 2010s. She didn't disappear, she just stopped running the machine. She moved to New York. Delia Ephron, Nora's sister, explained it simply. Los Angeles is just about movies. New York is about so much more than that, and so is Meg. In January 2006, she adopted a 14-month-old girl from China and named her Daisy True Ryan. She's spoken about that moment with more open warmth than almost anything else in her public life. I am convinced, completely convinced, that there was nothing random about it. We were destined. She channeled her energy into directing. In 2015, she made Ithaca, casting her son Jack and directing Tom Hanks alongside him. Sitting in that chair felt cleaner, more honest, more hers. And through these quieter years, there was one more relationship the tabloids never let go of. From around 2010 to 2019, she was on and off with rock musician John, nearly a decade, including a 2018 engagement that ended a year later. John himself later put it bluntly in Esquire, "I love Meg Ryan. I went with her for 10 years. She doesn't love me so much. She's a great girl. I'm just a lousy boyfriend." It was a long, messy, very human relationship, playing out far from the cameras that once tracked her every move. And Jack Quaid was becoming someone in his own right. The Boys, Scream, Oppenheimer. The son raised between two working actors had inherited the best of both. The Return. In 2023, Meg Ryan came back. She co-wrote, directed, and starred in What Happens Later, a romantic comedy set almost entirely in a stranded airport opposite David Duchovny, 61 years old, 8 years away from film, entirely on her own terms, with material she'd written herself. There's no doubt that for anybody older, roles are limited for an actor, but those limits don't exist for a director or a producer. And at a certain point, you just want to say what you mean. Fans showed up. Critics noticed something different, quieter, more settled, less performed. She covered glamour and talked about aging without apology. Our culture is so obsessed with youth. As an old person now, I love my age. I love where I'm at. Aging is not that terrifying. We're all doing it. Then in early 2025, she and Billy Crystal went back to Cats for a Super Bowl commercial, recreating the scene 36 years later at the same table, with Sydney Sweeney delivering the famous line in place of the original customer. The moment still landed, because it was never really about romance. It was about a woman refusing to pretend. In 2026, she appears in Lena Dunham's Netflix film Good Sex alongside Natalie Portman and Mark Ruffalo. The return continues entirely on her terms. Legacy. There's a little arrow on the floor of that restaurant, pointing down to the exact table. Tourists sit there every day. They recreate the moment. They laugh. They order whatever she was having. That's an unusual kind of permanence. Most actors leave behind performances. Meg Ryan left behind a feeling, the specific feeling of being in a crowded room and suddenly, unexpectedly, completely alive. She was never just America's sweetheart. That label was always a simplification. What she actually was is harder to name and easier to feel. A woman who made hope look like a choice rather than naivety, who made romance feel earned rather than wished for. She proved she could fly a helicopter in a war film. She proved she could carry an erotic thriller. She wrote her own material. She directed her own films. She raised 2 kids who, by her own account, are the best thing she's ever done. And she walked away from the machine before it could finish defining her. If there's a lesson, it's this. The version of a person the public falls in love with is never the whole person. It's always a character. And the bravest thing you can do in Hollywood or anywhere else is to eventually stop playing it. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Which Meg Ryan moment lives inside you? The Empire State Building in Sleepless in Seattle. The moment in You've Got Mail when she finally cries in the park and Tom Hanks is standing there with a dog and she has no idea it's him? Leave it in the comments because that memory belongs to you too.